Madeline Harris, 32 years old, stared blankly at the living room wall as her phone buzzed with silence. Last Tuesday her husband Jacob had collapsed from a heart attack during a meeting. He was gone before she reached the hospital. The shock still wrapped her like a cold fog. That night she had called her parents, her voice breaking with grief. Her mother, Patricia, answered with laughter in the background. "We're celebrating Emily's birthday right now. Can this wait until tomorrow?" Madeline sat on the couch with her 8-year-old daughter, Chloe, both of them clinging to each other as the world crumbled around them. She never imagined her family would abandon her like this, especially now. Where are you watching from today? Remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel as you enjoy the story. Madeline remembered the first time she met Jacob. It was sophomore year at Northwestern. She was failing economics, and he was the friendly teaching assistant who stayed after class to explain depreciation curves with endless patience and a soft laugh. That laugh became her favorite sound. Jacob proposed on graduation day, tucking a ring into her diploma case. They married at 23, brushing off friends who warned they were too young. "Life is better when you grow together," Jacob had told her. He finished his MBA and got hired at a respected financial firm in Chicago, where his honesty and warmth won over even the most skeptical clients. Their journey to parenthood hadn't been easy. They spent 5 years enjoying married life before deciding to try for a baby. 3 years of miscarriages, failed IVF, and heartbreak followed. Just when they were considering adoption, Madeline discovered she was pregnant. The final 2 months of her pregnancy were spent on bed rest. Jacob worked from home, cooking for her, massaging her swollen feet and reading bedtime stories to her belly. When Chloe was born, Jacob sobbed as he held her. For the next 8 years he was the best father Madeline could have imagined, coaching soccer despite not knowing the rules, staying up late to watch tutorials so he could teach Chloe better. There were warning signs. Jacob complained of chest pains and shortness of breath, which he shrugged off as stress. The doctor wasn't alarmed either. "Cut the salt, exercise more, take an aspirin now and then," they were told. They didn't worry enough. The morning Jacob died started like any other. He made dinosaur-shaped pancakes, kissed them goodbye and joked, "Don't forget the real maple syrup." That was the last thing he ever said to Madeline. Hours later his assistant Amanda called, her voice trembling. He collapsed during a meeting. They're rushing him to Northwestern Memorial. Madeline dropped her coffee mug. Shards of ceramic scattered like the pieces of her heart. She sped to the hospital, her knuckles white on the steering wheel, whispering prayers to a God she hadn't spoken to in years. But when she arrived it was too late. "Massive heart attack," the doctor said. He died at 11:23. Seeing Jacob's lifeless body was surreal. His skin was still warm. She touched his face, willing him to wake up. But there was no breath. No heartbeat. Just stillness. The hospital staff asked impossible questions. Burial or cremation, service arrangements, suit preferences. She could barely think, let alone make decisions. All she wanted was to lie next to him one last time and pretend this wasn't real. Driving home alone that evening was the hardest thing Madeline had ever done. She gripped the steering wheel so tightly her hands cramped. She had to tell Chloe the unimaginable, that her father, her hero, would never walk through their front door again. When Chloe got into the car after school she smiled and asked, "Where's Daddy? He promised he'd be at my art show tonight." Madeline couldn't speak. She pulled the car over, her throat closing. She turned to face Chloe and took her tiny hands. "Sweetheart, Daddy got very sick at work today. His heart stopped working." Chloe blinked, confused. "Can't the doctors fix it?" "No, baby," Madeline whispered, her voice shaking. "Sometimes when a heart stops completely, the doctors can't bring it back." There was a long pause. Then Chloe asked, "So Daddy's not coming home? Ever?" Madeline could only nod, eyes flooding. Chloe's wail was raw and primal. "I want Daddy. Please, I want my Daddy." She threw herself into her mother's arms, shaking with sobs. Madeline held her, rocking back and forth on the roadside as the world moved around them, cars passing, birds chirping, indifferent to their broken hearts. That night, Chloe clung to one of Jacob's old t-shirts and cried herself to sleep in her mother's bed. When Chloe was finally asleep, Madeline sat on the cold bathroom floor with the door shut. Her sobs came in gasps, painful and deep. The grief was like a fist pressing into her chest. She needed her parents. She picked up the phone and called them, hands shaking. Patricia answered after several rings, laughter and music echoing in the background. Rachel, can I call you back? We're in the middle of Emily's birthday dinner. Mom, Jacob died today. He had a heart attack. He's gone. Silence. Then Patricia said, Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Are you sure? I saw his body, Mom, Madeline said. There's no mistake. Well, this is quite a shock, Patricia murmured, sounding more inconvenienced than devastated. But sweetie, everyone's here. Caterer's guests. Can you manage tonight? We'll come by tomorrow. Madeline's voice was hollow. My husband died. Chloe lost her dad. And you're at a birthday party. Her father, Walter, took the phone. This is awful news, Madeline, he said flatly. Was Jacob's life insurance policy up to date? Not, are you okay? Not, we're coming right over. Just a question about money. I can't believe this is your response, she said. You haven't even asked how Chloe is. Walter's voice turned cold. Emily planned this party for months. We can't just walk out. Madeline ended the call without another word. Her phone soon buzzed with texts, not from her family but from friends. Kevin's old roommate. Her coworker. Even a high school classmate she hadn't spoken to in years. Strangers showed more kindness than her own parents. Her neighbor, Mrs. Jennings, came by with soup and sat quietly at the table while Madeline tried to figure out who to call next. You don't have to do this alone, Mrs. Jennings said gently. But Madeline felt completely alone. That night, Chloe had nightmares, waking every hour calling out for her dad. Madeline lay beside her, whispering stories about Jacob, holding back her own tears. The morning after Jacob's death felt even heavier than the night before. Madeline woke up still hoping it had all been a dream. But the empty side of the bed told the truth. Chloe was already awake, curled up beside her, clutching Jacob's t-shirt. Mommy, is Daddy still in heaven? She asked quietly. Madeline nodded. Yes, sweetheart. He's watching over us. Chloe pressed her face into her mother's shoulder and whispered, Can we write him a letter? Madeline smiled sadly. Chloe stayed
That's
close,
a beautiful
sometimes
idea.
coloring,
We
sometimes
can write him
asking
letters
questions
whenever
no
we
child
want.
should have to ask.
It was a small
Will Daddy
step
be
toward
cold?
healing, but in
Can
that
he
moment,
hear me if I
it
talk
gave
to
them
him?
both something to hold
Madeline
on to.
answered as best
The
as she
funeral
could,
was
her
scheduled
voice
for
soft
Saturday.
but steady. Madeline
Daddy's
barely
body
had time
won't
to
feel
grieve
cold
properly
anymore,
with
baby.
so many details
But I
to
believe his
arrange.
heart still hears
The
you.
florist, the
Always.
pastor, the casket,
They
it was
cried together,
endless. Holding hands
Every
on the
time
couch
she
as
tried
the
to sit
funeral
down,
day
another
crept
call
closer.
came.
When Saturday came, the sun was shining, beautiful and cruel. Chloe insisted on wearing her blue dress. Daddy said I looked like a princess in this one, she declared. Madeline helped braid her hair like Jacob used to. They arrived early to the funeral home. Jacob's co-workers came, many crying openly. They shared stories about his honesty and kindness, telling Chloe how proud he always was of her. Madeline clung to their words. Her parents had promised to come early, but at 10:40 a.m. they texted, stuck in traffic. Save us seats. They walked in 20 minutes late, drawing attention as they made their way to the front row. Patricia hugged Madeline briefly. Traffic was awful and Emily couldn't find anything suitable to wear last minute. She whispered as if Jacob's death had just been an inconvenience. Walter nodded stiffly, glancing around the room. During the service, Madeline noticed Patricia wiping at dry eyes and Sophia scrolling on her phone. It was insulting. Meanwhile, Jacob's brother Nathan had flown in from Japan overnight. He looked drained and heartbroken, but he held Chloe's hand throughout the service. The contrast between the two sides of the family was heartbreaking. Madeline tried to focus on the people who cared, the ones who cried real tears and told real stories. When it came time for the eulogy, Madeline nearly backed out. Her legs felt weak and her heart pounded. But then she saw Chloe's little face, so brave and hopeful, and she rose to speak. Jacob was the best man I've ever known, she began, her voice trembling. She spoke about his dad jokes, his maple syrup obsession, and the way he made everyone feel seen. He always put family first, she said, glancing at her parents who were already gathering their things. At the reception afterward, Madeline overheard her father whisper to her uncle, Jacob did well for himself. That insurance policy alone must be generous. The words made her skin crawl. Her own father was thinking about money on the day of his son-in-law's funeral. She wanted to scream, but she was too tired. Patricia and Sophia offered no help. They stood in the living room accepting condolences like they were the ones who had suffered the most. Jacob's co-workers' spouses helped clean dishes, comfort Chloe and carry chairs. Patricia sat with a glass of wine and offered opinions on the catering. Nathan helped clean up with Jacob's parents, who had been pillars of strength through it all. Diana made sure Chloe ate. Robert took out the trash without being asked. They were real family. That night, after everyone had gone, Madeline collapsed on the couch. Diana tucked Chloe into bed and Robert gave Madeline a reassuring hug. "You're not alone," he said softly. But she felt alone. Her parents had barely been present, emotionally or physically. She remembered her conversation with the funeral director earlier that week about the will. Jacob had everything prepared, but she hadn't had the strength to look at the documents yet. Thomas, Jacob's friend and their estate lawyer, told her gently, "Everything is in order." Jacob made sure of that. "But take your time. Grieve first. The paperwork can wait." 2 weeks after the funeral, Madeline was finally catching her breath. Chloe had returned to school, though she was still quiet and withdrawn. The teacher sent daily updates, telling Madeline how Chloe was adjusting. One afternoon the doorbell rang. Through the peephole she saw Patricia adjusting her pearl earrings and Walter fixing his golf shirt. Madeline opened the door, not bothering to hide her surprise. "We thought we'd check in," Patricia said, walking right past her. "Is Chloe at school?" "Good. We need to talk." It wasn't a visit of comfort. That much became clear quickly. Madeline followed them into the living room, wary but polite. She made coffee automatically, playing hostess when it should have been the other way around. Walter admired the sound system Jacob had installed weeks before he died. "He had good taste in tech," he said casually. Madeline offered a tight smile. The grief was still too raw to talk about Jacob in the past tense. Finally, Walter cleared his throat. "We wanted to talk to you about your situation." "My situation?" she asked, confused. "Yes," Patricia said, setting her coffee down. "Your financial situation. Now that Jacob's gone, we thought we should discuss what's next for the family." Madeline stared, unsure she heard them correctly. Walter leaned forward. "We're not getting any younger. Our retirement took a hit in the last market downturn. Healthcare is expensive and you've come into some security now." Madeline's eyes narrowed. "Are you asking me for money?" Patricia shifted uncomfortably. Walter continued, "We thought maybe 50% of the life insurance payout would help. That still leaves you and Chloe more than enough." Madeline felt the room spin. 50%? Of my husband's life insurance. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "The husband you couldn't mourn properly because Emily's birthday was more important?" Walter didn't flinch. "Rachel, don't be emotional. This is just practical planning. We are your parents." Madeline stood slowly, her coffee untouched. "You came here, 2 weeks after Jacob died, to ask for money?" Patricia spoke up, her voice defensive. "We raised you, Madeline. We paid for college, help with your first house. We think it's only fair you consider giving back to your family now." Madeline's eyes filled with fury. "Giving back? My husband died. This isn't a windfall. It's not a prize. It's the price of losing the love of my life, the father of my daughter." Walter's tone turned sharp. "You owe us respect." Madeline's voice cracked. "Respect is earned. And right now you've earned nothing but distance. Get out." Patricia gasped. "We are your parents," she cried, standing. "You can't just throw us out." "I can," Madeline said firmly. "And I am. You didn't show up for me when I needed you most. You didn't comfort your granddaughter. And now you show up asking for Jacob's money?" Her voice grew louder with every word. "You didn't lose a husband. You lost access to someone else's security." Walter's face turned cold. "You're being dramatic." Madeline pointed to the door. "Leave. Before Chloe gets home and sees the kind of people her grandparents truly are." They left in angry silence, muttering about her being ungrateful. That afternoon, Madeline picked Chloe up from school. Chloe seemed quiet again, thoughtful. As they drove home she finally asked, "Were Grandma and Grandpa at the house today?" Madeline hesitated. "Yes, they came by." Chloe stared out the window. "Did they ask about Daddy's money?" The question hit Madeline like a punch. "Why would you think that?" Chloe spoke softly. "At the funeral I heard Grandpa tell Uncle James we'd get lots of money because Daddy died. Is that true?" Madeline swallowed hard. It's true Daddy made sure we'd be okay, but that money isn't what matters. I'd give it all back to have him here. Me too, Chloe whispered. That night, Madeline called Nathan in Japan and told him everything. He was silent for a moment, then exploded. They asked for half. Are they insane? Madeline sighed. They think they deserve it. They said they're family and they helped me before. Jacob made me promise to look out for you and Chloe, Nathan said. He talked to me about his finances, he planned everything. He would be furious if he knew they were trying to take Chloe's future from her. I'm going to talk to Thomas again, Madeline said. I need to make sure they can't touch any of it. Good, Nathan agreed. Don't let them manipulate you. The next day Madeline met with Thomas at his office. He looked over the paperwork carefully. Everything Jacob put in place is rock solid, he assured her. You're the sole beneficiary of everything. Life insurance, retirement savings. And Chloe's trust is locked until she's 25 unless it's for education. Can they contest the will? She asked. Thomas shook his head. Legally they don't have a case. Parents of a married adult with a spouse and child have no default inheritance rights. And Jacob was of sound mind when he signed everything. Madeline let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Thank you. That night, Madeline's phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from her father, her mother, even Emily. We need to talk like adults. You've always been selfish. Mom and Dad deserve better. Madeline didn't reply. She sat down with Chloe for dinner, trying to enjoy a moment of peace. But Chloe pushed her food around and said quietly, "Was that Grandpa again?" Madeline nodded. "He wants us to come to their house on Sunday." Chloe looked up. "Do we have to go?" Madeline hesitated. "I think we should. Not to agree with them but to say what needs to be said. Daddy believed in standing up for what's right." Chloe nodded. "Then I want to come too." Madeline smiled sadly. "You're sure?" "Yes. But I want to bring something. Can I use the computer after dinner?" Madeline raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning?" "Something Daddy would have liked," Chloe said. "Something to help them understand." Madeline agreed, unsure what Chloe was up to but trusting her heart. Over the next few days, Chloe worked hard in her room, coloring, writing, printing things on the family printer. She kept her project secret, but every now and then Madeline heard her muttering to herself. They need to see it clearly. Like Daddy said. On Sunday the sky was gray as they got dressed. Chloe wore a simple dress and carried a manila envelope. "Ready?" Madeline asked. "Ready," Chloe said firmly. As they pulled into the driveway of Madeline's childhood home, they saw the extra cars. "They invited the whole family," Madeline muttered. "Trying to pressure me with witnesses." Chloe squeezed her hand. "We've got this." Patricia answered the door, dressed as if for a church meeting. "Come in. Everyone's waiting." The living room was full. Aunts, uncles, even cousins. Walter sat like a judge in his recliner. Emily smirked from the couch, phone in hand. "Let's begin," Walter said seriously. "We have important things to discuss," Walter began. "About family and fairness." "Then say it in front of Chloe," Madeline said. "She deserves to hear what you're asking." Patricia frowned. "This isn't a conversation for children. If it's not for her ears, it's not for her future," Madeline snapped. Walter continued anyway. "We believe it's only fair to share the life insurance. We propose 50% for us and 15% for Emily, since she's still struggling with her art business." Emily looked up and smiled, smug and satisfied. Walter handed over a printed document. "This outlines what we feel is a fair distribution. Family supports family, Madeline." Madeline glanced at the paper. They knew the exact amount. "You want 65% of what Jacob left to secure Chloe's future? You weren't even there when he died. You skipped his funeral prep to host a birthday party. We've already apologized for the timing," Walter said stiffly. "That doesn't excuse this." Madeline's voice rose. "You think Jacob died just so you could finally buy a vacation home?" The room fell silent. Just then Chloe stepped forward, holding her envelope. "I have something to say," she said clearly. Patricia forced a smile. "Sweetheart, let the adults talk." "No," Chloe said, her voice trembling. "This is important. This is from me and Daddy." All eyes turned to Chloe as she stepped into the center of the room. Her small hands shook slightly, but her voice was clear. Daddy always said that when people show you who they are, you should believe them. And that real family shows up when it matters, not when they want something. Patricia's mouth opened as if to object, but no words came. You didn't come when Mommy needed you. You didn't help her when she cried every night. You didn't ask if I was okay. Chloe's voice cracked. You only came when you thought there was money. She opened the envelope and handed a paper to Walter. It was a hand-drawn invoice, carefully colored with crayon, titled Bill for Love and Support. Underneath were bullet points. Being there when Daddy died, $0 not provided. Helping Mommy, $0 not provided. Hugging me when I cried, $0 not provided. Being real grandparents, priceless but not paid. At the bottom, total, $0 earned. The room went completely silent. Walter's hands trembled as he held the paper. Patricia stared at Chloe, stunned. Even Emily put her phone down. That's what you really came for, right? Chloe said. Well, that's what you earned. She walked back to Madeline, who knelt down and held her close. Madeline stood slowly. There's nothing else to discuss. You didn't come to help. You came to take. I won't allow you to touch what Jacob left for Chloe. I won't let you damage her the way you damaged me. Walter opened his mouth, but Madeline raised her hand. No. I'm done listening. Unless you come back with an apology and a willingness to change, don't contact us again. She took Chloe's hand and turned to leave. You're being unfair, Patricia called after them. Madeline looked back, her voice quiet but firm. No. I'm being free. And with that they walked out the front door into the cold air, into clarity. Later that evening, back at home, Madeline tucked Chloe into bed. I'm sorry you had to be part of that today, she said softly. Chloe looked up. I'm not. Daddy would have wanted us to stand up for ourselves. I think. Maybe now they'll understand. Madeline brushed her daughter's hair back and kissed her forehead. You were so brave, Chloe. I'm proud of you. Chloe whispered, I'm proud of you too. Downstairs, Madeline sat alone in the quiet kitchen, thinking about everything that had been lost, and everything that had been gained. For the first time in weeks she felt something close to peace. A week later a letter arrived. It was handwritten, not from Walter or Patricia but from Emily. It said, I didn't know how bad things had gotten. I never saw them treat you this way. I'm sorry for what I said and did. I hope someday you'll forgive me. Madeline didn't reply right away. She tucked the letter into a drawer and went to find Chloe. They had a picnic planned at Jacob's favorite park. As they packed sandwiches and Chloe's sketchpad, Madeline smiled. They were moving forward. Not forgetting, not pretending, but growing stronger with every step. And Jacob? He was still with them, just in a different way now. Moral lesson. Grief can reveal not just what we've lost, but also who truly stands with us. When family becomes a source of pain rather than comfort, setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's protection. Love, respect, and support are not entitlements. They are earned. And sometimes the smallest voices carry the deepest truth.